Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you so much for your presence this morning. I just want to start by saying that I understand that this space is not a space that will be inhabited or that will be frequented by the masses, because this is a space for people who are genuinely seeking and looking and on a quest to actually not only grow themselves, but to do that in alignment with what is taking place in the evolution of our world at the moment. So it's a process that you need to educate yourself with, and it's certainly not a process that is fun and that is necessarily going to make you feel as if you are busy with something that you are enjoying as such. It's an education, but it's also a relaxed space that you can enjoy, because giving yourself awareness is now one of the most crucial and one of the most important aspects. So good morning. I want to also offer you the wonderful new opportunity that was created for me by the wonderful support of Andreas, that I have a YouTube channel with all the old Energizers loaded on there. And when you are challenged and when you need some guidance and when you feel that you're just feeling a bit low, choose any episode, because remember, it's not just the words that you're going to be listening to. It's the energy that the words are being spoken with that is going to serve you. You can choose any episode and you can navigate on the playback line at the bottom. You just go zzz, and then where you feel like, you stop and then you play and you listen to what the message is that's coming forth. That is the message I'm getting to give to you. I'm not sure how that is going to be used in terms of the greater scheme of things, but where you are guided to stop, listen. Stop, look, correct. Stop, listen, and receive. So let's start this morning by giving permission. I give myself permission is an audible expression of your power. It's an audible expression, and it's best you can give permission in your thinking too, but it's nice when you hear yourself say it. So I give myself permission to receive my highest good today. I give myself permission to receive wisdom so that I can ascend, so that I can grow. I give myself permission to be pleasantly surprised and to receive amazing, wonderful surprises every day in every way. My life gets better and better. So express your personal power, and also when you give permission, you are really stating, thy will is my will. Because when you give permission, you make yourself available for those wonderful things to come to you. Thy will is my will. When I looked at the word energize, energize for me is energy exchange. Now, this energy that we now exchange energizes real greatness, igniting spontaneity, spontaneous enthusiasm in us. Because when you get and you live and you practice equal exchange of energy, in other words, you do not do unto others as you don't want them to do unto you. And when you receive, you give in equal quantities. That energizes real greatness, and it ignites spontaneous enthusiasm. So be good to yourself and give permission often. It's a wonderful way of being good to yourself. So I see these of late when I do an energizer, that I receive a thought for the day. So the thought for today is that we are now tapping our ascension intelligence. Ascension intelligence. We are born with this ascension intelligence, but we forget. And ascension means growing up. When the whole process of life here on earth is, if we look at it and we look at it honestly, it's about growing up. When you are small, the only thing that you can think about is when I'm grown up. The whole process of life here is about growing up. And up means to ascend, because when you grow up, you go higher. So up means ascend. And you have heard the term ascended masters. We are all in this same journey. The potential is offered us, each and every one of us. Not one is exempt, not even a dog or a cat or an animal. We are all in this journey now on earth, and the potential is offered us now more than ever to master energy. And we master energy by respecting the way that we share it. Because when you master something, you are in utmost respect of it. You honor it. You live it with a sacred dignity. That's what it means to master something. You always see that humble presence and that honor and that dignity and that respect in the presence of a master. To leave behind our caterpillar stage, to emerge as butterflies, and to literally speak a butterfly language. You cannot speak butterfly language to a caterpillar because a caterpillar doesn't understand butterfly language. But it's the same thing. It's the same process. And we are now asked to leave behind our caterpillar stage and to leave the groundedness, the fact that we can only be attached. We must now become the butterfly so that we can ascend. Ascension is a state of being coming face to face with who you truly are. And you can only come face to face with who you truly are when you know thyself. To know thyself is a state of awareness. It's a sign now. And we can see it everywhere. If you have the eyes to see, you'll see it everywhere. That we've got, from now on, we've got a change. There's a change in our quantum position. Our quantum position meaning that not only the particle, but also the flow. We also now need to go to a quantum level, because the quantum world is so real and it has been overlooked for so many years on this earth simply because we forgot. And we've got to as a sign, there's signs everywhere that from now on there must be a change in our quantum position to identify with our pure self in the real world. Identify with your pure self in the real world. The real world that we live is our reality. For most people, that's the only real that exists. They're not interested in knowing that there's a real beyond that. So urgently, we are called to change the images that we feed our imagination. Change the images that you are feeding your imagination. Change the awareness of who you are. Change the awareness of who you are. Because very often your awareness of who you are is based on a very self-critical and very mean and unaccommodating attitude. You don't have patience with yourself. You don't care for yourself. You don't do nice things for yourself. Change the awareness of who you are so that you can become very caring of yourself. And when you are very caring of yourself, you respect yourself. When you are caring of yourself, you consider your needs. You consider the things that are important to you. You have priorities. And when you have those priorities, you manifest them. I had a wonderful session with a client last night where we looked at priorities that she said 3 years ago, and she has manifested every single one of them. And those priorities were really, really difficult for her. They were not like a breeze and a walk in the park. Those were big things, huge things, like changing home, like changing career, huge steps. Every single one of them has been manifested because the quantum principle says that what we look for is already in ourselves. What you're looking for is looking. What you're looking for is already looking. That is called the observer effect. In quantum physicists, when quantum physicists now work with at the quantum level, the observer effect says they call it the observer effect because the act of observation changes the outcome of the experiment. Just the act of observation. In other words, the way that the experiment is being observed changes its outcome. That's the power that we have to influence our world. The quantum physicists now calls it the observer effect. It's real. Hi, Busha. It's real. So when you now want to go into the observer effect, you can actually admit to yourself that the images that you feed in your imagination is what's creating your real world. Today, I want to invite you all to embark with me on this Energizer adventure so we can change the outcome of the human experiment, because it is a human experiment. Fusha, you're welcome to put your cam off. You can listen to me off cam, all good. So in quantum speak, by observing something, we change it. So in quantum speak, by observing something, we change it. When we scale up the awareness that we are born with, because that's what ascension means, is you scaling it up. When we scale up the awareness that we are born with to our higher self, to that bigger awareness, because let's face it, down here on earth, most of us are living with blinkers. But when you start emerging into your higher self, when we scale up the awareness we are born with, it's inherent to our higher self, we open up. The act of observing ourselves is gaining awareness through images, symbols in Jungian terms. Dr. Carl Gustav Jung called it symbols. So the images, imagination, images, same thing. Gaining awareness through images, through symbols in Jungian terms, which causes changes in our earthly lives. And the way with which you register and interpret the symbols is what causes the process we know as change. I'll say that again. The way in which you register. When you register something, you accept that it's so. In the way in which you register and interpret. Because when you register it, you got to give it a meaning. You interpret it, you give it a meaning. I like it, I don't like it. The way in which you register and interpret the symbols is what causes the process we know as change. Hold that thought for a moment. Because you do not think in terms of words, you think in terms of images. You think in terms of symbols. You see in your mind's eye. When you look at the worst case scenario, you see everything that can go wrong. You see in your mind's eye. And that's what we call the process that we know as change. You see it in your mind's eye. Now, both a particle and a wave, because at quantum physics, something can be a particle or it can be a wave. So both the particle and the wave is the essence of the paradox, because both is true. The particle is true and the wave is true. You'll always find that the light is true and the dark is true. The good is true and the bad is true. Bad things are also, when you look at bad things, that's the truth for you. Good things are also the truth. So that's the paradox. The paradox is that both have truth. Both can be true. But the greater the paradox, the closer you are to the truth, because you are always the one who makes the choice. And sometimes life gives you such great extremes to deal with. Extremes. One day you're in cloud nine, the next day you are in the depths of despair. It's called the law of polarity. It's a law that operates here on earth. It's an absolute. It's a wave or it's a particle. And when you can combine the two, when you no longer have to choose the one over the other, when you combine the two, it can become a sparticle, a spark-icle. It can spark because you become the light. The image shows us the way. The real source of creativity is images, it's paintings, it's things that you can see with your eyes. The real source of creativity. But the images it presents, we must now become familiar with so that we can unite with it. Because the image is what shows us the way. And we've got to start becoming aware of the images that we present ourselves with, not just the words. What are the pictures that you're seeing? How are you applying this creativity, which is innate with an image? Because you need to be creative in order to create an image. This person was creative when they created the cover of this book. So the observer and the observed then unites. And when this is for me the act of ascension, when you really can transcend duality, it now doesn't have to be the one versus the other, or the one or the other, or the one against the other, black or white, white or black, up or down, right or left, good or bad, sad or happy. It doesn't need to be the vacillation between I have the one and I don't have the other, because that's really the source of lack. We always look at the other, and the other becomes the thing that we don't have. So the observer and the observed then can unite, because in the school of practical philosophy and based on Stoic wisdom, they say that the observer can never become the object. You don't want to become the object. You want to become the observed. You want to be able to become that which you are seeing in your imagery. The observer and the observed unites. This is for me the act of ascension. When you grow up, when you stop doing nonsense, because it's in no sense, you're doing nonsense things. So many concepts are now real contexts. So one of the ones that I want to share with you, how a concept gets a different context. It's a very simple process, but it changes massive things on the other side. So creative has become maker. You're no longer a creative, you're a maker. You make magic, you make miracles. It's a biophoton shift. It goes right down to quantum level. It's a biophoton shift that we now think with our heart. Our heart sees the images. The mind rattles on. Rattlesnake. Never stops. We now need to calm the mind. Not stop it from thinking. It can never stop. It's a continuous thing. When it stops working, it becomes dilapidated. It becomes ineffective. Your brain cannot stop for a minute. When their brains stop, they become mentally retarded. They can't function anymore. The brain can never stop. The brain never sleeps. Your brain has been awake since the day you were born. It never stops firing. It never stops sending energy through the synapses. It never stops functioning through the neural pathways, even when you're asleep. It never sleeps. That's why you can see now that when you go to sleep, it's another aspect of you. It's not your brain. We now need to listen and receive. And what does it mean to listen and receive? It means that at quantum level, you are starting to awaken and remember who you are. Not a particle or a wave, but a divine spark, a sparticle. And then you start thinking with your heart. And when you listen, then you hear the voice of your higher self, of your God self, of the source, of the creator, of the maker that you relate to. That is for you the sacred authority in your life. Whether there's one, whether there's many, whether there's Mother Nature, whether it's the sun, moon, and the stars, whether it's God, the creator of the Christian religion, or Yahweh of the Jewish religion, or Allah of the Islam religion, or Lord Shiva, Krishna. There's so many names, but it's the same energy. It's source energy. It was there at the beginning. It's the origin. And at quantum physics, you are now called to go back to the origin of who you be. And for that, you need to listen to that voice, which is the voice of the source, of the origin, because the river cannot flow without its source. Life cannot flow without its source. We need to listen and receive. And how many times more do you still want to say, if only I listened to myself? If only I listened to myself. Just close your eyes for a moment and remember how many times you said this to yourself. Just close your eyes for a moment and really remember, how many times have you said to yourself, if only I listened to myself? Why didn't I listen to myself? Because I knew, but I didn't listen. Just let it flash. I can think of so many times. And I can think of so many times going back to when I was a child even. Let a few instances find you and remember the connectedness you already have, but refuse to honor. Because it's not something that still needs to come to you, or that you need to learn, or that you need to go and do a university course for, or that you need to get a degree or a certification for. You already have it, but you refuse to honor it. Because you're so vested in being right. Yeah, but what if it's not the right thing? That looks too easy. And then comes the justification and and how you then negotiate it away from yourself. This is the work of the ego. Easy the good out, because it's so easy for it to take over from that sacred thought that you know is what you need to do, even sometimes when it's not a pleasant thing to do. And that's why we ignore it. And that's why you won't honor it, because very often it asks you to say no. Very often it asks you to say, this is not where I resonate. This is not for me. Or whatever the case may be. But that very sacred discernment that offers you the most divine life, because when you start listening and you receive from that sacred presence that has been with you since the beginning, since you were born, that higher self, that you can call it by any name you like, you know that it's present with you. And at quantum physics, it's already, the quantum physicists are proving the same thing. It's as above, so below. The power of the observer affects the outcome of the experiment. The power of the observer in us is going to change the outcome of the experiment called the human race. Because it now needs to change to humankind. We can't be a human race anymore. Where do we want to race to? There's no time for anything anymore. And there's not even time to be kind. Not even to ourselves. Because we're a human race. This is the work of the ego. Because if you remember the connectedness you already have but refuse to honor, you will not give your power to the ego. That's going to ease the good out. That's going to tell you what you must do so you can be right. And that's going to make you deny the good things in your life, the things that are amazing, because you won't even have the eyes to see them. You'll be too busy complaining about everything that you don't have. And most of those things are already in your life, but you don't have the eyes to see them. Because you've created the very specific image here and a picture of what it's supposed to look like. So when you already have it, you can't see it because that's not the same image. That's why I said to you earlier on, quantum physics, the act of ascension, is now asking you to change the images that you feed in your imagination, because you're doing great damage not only to yourself but to the earth and to the peoples of the earth. It makes us deny the fact that we can. You can listen to your inner voice. You can make sound choices. You can have everything you want in your life. But the question is, do you really need it? Because you need to identify your needs. You must know them. Most of the time, the things that you want is not necessary because you don't need it. You know, when I watch the water programs on YouTube of people in the States that don't clean their houses for like 20 and 30 years, most of the things that those people say are in those houses, I was amazed, are things that they order online. Some things they don't even open the box when it arrives. They just throw it in the corner because they must just have it. They don't need it. That's not how it functions here on earth. If you want something, be sure that you need it. Because otherwise, you're in a state of waste. And then you're feeding shit images to your imagination for things that you really don't need. And that is what consumerism does. It steals your life away from you because you're continuously in debt over here. You continuously owe somebody something or yourself because you're not getting it. And it makes you deny the fact that you already know. You deny your own wisdom because you are afraid to be wrong. What if? What if? And another insistence of the ego, it wants to be right at all costs because it fears being wrong. And that's what creates the paradox over and over and over. And the greater the ego, the more the ego grows, the bigger the paradox. Good versus bad. Because in rightness, you deny yourself your good. In rightness, you just want to be right. You don't care about the consequences. You don't care about your good. I'll show you I'm right. You'll rather be right than to admit, to own, to express what you truly want. You know, two people argue and they back to back in bed and they're both lying thinking, I wish I could hold her, I wish I could hold him, I wish I could hold her, wish I could hold him. But they won't because I'm right. And fuck you, I'm upset with you and I'm going to show you now. And you pass each other in the passage and you can't even look at each other. Because your rightness is like a wall between you. I won't give the other person the pleasure of being right. You don't need right in life to proceed. You need what works. It must be effective. It must show you a result that pleases you. Because not only you will benefit from that result, but everyone does. It's a win-win. Doesn't just benefit one over the other. But you will rather be right than to admit or to own or to express what you truly want. Because in a relationship, what do we want? We want closeness, we want togetherness, we want companionship, we want sharing, we want that sense of comfort and peace of mind. I have a wonderful friend and I once asked her, I said, why are you marrying this man? She says, because in this relationship I don't have to think. Isn't that amazing? When you don't have to think in a relationship, when that is a relatedness that is born out of trust and truth and honesty and a complete absence of rightness, that the one must prove the other wrong. And, you know, when you don't express what you truly want, when the rightness stops you from expressing what you truly want, you go into more denial. And more denial is the source of all the habits that you don't like, both yours and everybody else's. Because their denial causes their habits that they don't like, and your denial causes your habits that you don't like. You don't believe me? Go see. Every time you deny something, it's a source of a core habit, of a core addiction even. Because it's easing the good out. It's ego. Easing good out. Ego. And it's going to extinguish your greatness often. And you'll feel it because you'll feel like a worm. It's going to extinguish your greatness often. And when you feel like a worm, not necessarily because you've done something wrong, but you're going to feel like a worm for the environment that you're occupying because you're going to be absorbing all that energy. You're going to feel like you know, a terrible person. When your greatness is extinguished, often enough, if your greatness gets extinguished in this way, the ego eases the good out with all these things that we bring upon ourselves, with the choices, with the images that you gift your imagination. And it's an effortless deed. And you know what's the most scary about that? Is that it's all unconscious decisions that you're making. Unconsciously. You're not even aware of it. But it's a decision. More denial, easing the good out. And when your greatness is extinguished often enough, your spirit breaks. And you give up on yourself, on your life, on your environment. Little by little, you give up. You give up on your honesty. You give up on your integrity. You give up on the contribution that you're making in the world. You give up on being a master of energy that's busy ascending, that's growing up. You rising. You have an awareness that is acute. You have an awareness that is functional. You have an awareness that changes every situation that you find yourself in for the better. Not only for you, but for everyone. And you become that person that people look up to, that they think, wow, because it's an integral need in every one of us. It's a need. You have a need in you to feel like an example. And it will not rest until it's satisfied. And now you have an ego that continuously eases the good out, so you never feel like an example and you can't belong anywhere, which is your other human intrinsic need, because you always feel excluded from things that are good. And it all starts with a picture that you're putting into your imagination unconsciously. Playing childish games and you want to grow up. It's good to be a child, but some childish games really don't serve. It's like snakes and ladders, It teaches you what the ego does to you. That snake swallows you down at number 99 and takes you down to number 2 again. And that feeling of dread when you come into that last line at the top with your little token, because you know that by number 99 that snake's gonna swallow you, and then you manifest it. Look at the image, the mental image that you create for your imagination. You already feel what it feels like to go down its tummy as well. Right. Oh boy, when we can laugh at ourselves, then we're doing some great work. So, surrender is not the same as giving up. Surrender is when you admit to yourself, listen, you know what? Let me just stop investing energy in this. Let me surrender, because I can now see, I admit to myself that I'm in rightness. It's not serving me. It's not getting me anything that I want. It's not going anywhere. So I'm surrendering and I'm here, but right now I'm not going to participate. Surrender sometimes means that you don't participate. When you surrender in the war, you raise the white flag, you're the one who stops shooting. You don't shoot anymore. If they want to shoot, they must shoot, but you're not shooting. Like that. Surrender is to admit. And giving up is an unwillingness. It's unavailable. There's no capacity. In such a space, nothing can happen. When you give up, there's no growth. And when there's no growth, there's death. And death doesn't always mean that you stop breathing. There's a very large percentage of people on this earth that are the undead. They're not dead, but they're not alive either. And that's, I think, where the whole concept of zombies was born. Because when you look at those people, they're all reflecting the emotional wounds that they sustained during their life. You know, this one's got an arm, he gave an arm and a leg. So he don't listen to our language. It's cost an arm and a leg. So there goes the zombie's got no arm and no leg. You see, everything has meaning. So I'm going to read you now this amazing poem from West Beavers, and then I'm going to conclude with the session today. It says, it's a wonderful poem. It's called It Will Pass. When it comes to the moment when you're tempted to ask, why are things never easy? Why always a task? Why does it take longer and always cost more? Why does disappointment find a way to my door? The answer is simple, and this you must learn. The world owes you nothing. What you gain, you must earn. It doesn't come easy to those who achieve. They all have their setbacks and reasons to grieve. There will always be days when plans come unstuck. It might be your fault if it's not from bad luck. When something has failed, you can't change the fact. The only change you can make is how you react. Anyone can be happy when the going is kind. It's when things fall apart that a champion is defined. A champion sets time to work through the sorrow, but once time is up, they move on to tomorrow. They avoid the temptation to go down the track of despairing so much that it's hard to come back. They know that success is assured if they last, and whatever the grief, they know it will pass. It's an amazing poem. It will pass. Now imagine, for me, your own body's light. So close both your eyes and now see with your inner eye and bring it to mind so clearly. In other words, you bring that image to your mind. You present an image to your mind. You bring it to mind so that you see it with clarity. Clarity, clarity, clarity. Bring it to mind so you see it with clarity. And see in you. Bring it to mind. Bring the image. Go fetch it. But bring the image. And see the most beautiful, magnificent, indescribable light shining and lighting up your entire presence from a quantum level within. Unite the wave and the particle so that it becomes a sparticle, spark, a spark that is like a quasar, that is like that is so bright and so beautiful that today, the few of us gathered here today, that we light up the cosmos with the most beautiful light on all levels. Wave and particle both together as a sparkicle. It's a light. It's a lighticle. A light also means rise, get up vibe, feel the force, feel the course of life as it courses through your veins, as it enlivens you, as it gives you the energy of life itself. And that tonight, when you go to bed, when it's time for you to rest, that you realize that the brain never sleeps. Don't attempt to switch your brain off so that you can go to sleep. Tonight, you just slightly dim the light. You bring the energy a little bit down because you want the brain to understand that now this aspect of you is going to rest. It will no longer have any demands of the body. Because when you're asleep, your consciousness no longer have any demands of your body. And that's why it's necessary for the body to sleep, that it is released of the demands from the consciousness on the body. So you are light, fresh in the morning, and you rise to meet the new day. Now you know where the term rise and shine comes from. It's truth. Tomorrow morning, rise and shine. And in the meantime, let your presence be a light that is seen in the entire cosmos. It's not something that you have to do. Just know it, that there's a light in you that is magnificent, and no amount of darkness can ever penetrate the light. Where there is light, there is no darkness. Have a wonderful Sunday. Thank you for coming to share this space. I'm finishing a little bit early today because I have some things to attend to, and I'm very grateful for all of you for having been here and sharing this space with me and making it possible for me to find this information as well, because I'm also learning so much when I research and prepare for our sessions. So thank you, and I really wish for you a wonderful day. And for those of you that I'm seeing later, because we're going for lunch together, yay! Love and blessings, everyone.